Hey, what's up everyone? Alex here. Again, we're back with another Endgame puzzle, 1st July 2021. So, welcome to the second half of 2021. How time flies after COVID since started. So, interestingly, today we had a piece of news that Japan is actually going to host Meijin-sen on 17th July. So, looking forward to that tournament just to see how everyone is coping and how the youngsters in Japan have been preparing against the top players. So let's jump right into today's endgame puzzle again from Othello.org, Othello Japan website, Mr. Nakajima Tetsuya's website. So let's take a quick look at this puzzle. 522 people have tried it, 346 successful. Only 62 people have managed to do it at the first time. That's about 10%. So Black's turn to go. Let's take a quick look at the puzzle. So over here we see there aren't many choices for Black to begin with. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 moves possible. And you can probably almost immediately rule out this move to A7 because it just basically unnecessarily gives up the corner to white to the left. So you're basically left with four options, and you can also rule out G8. So just by rule of elimination, G8 probably wouldn't work because you just basically just give white the first square over there just to solidify that corner to the bottom right. So you're left with basically three options: H3, H8, and A1, given that logic, so that initial screening. So one thing that you might want to note is that if we take H3, this is a momentary diagonal control by white over here. If we take H3, typically you want access to G2 to be able to pull off like a H3, H1, and then jump into G2 combo. But given that black doesn't have access right away to G2, H3 would simply be too early. So another thing that you might want to take note is these two squares to bottom right and one square to H3. This is kind of like a three square region, even though it's not directly joint. It is somewhat joint because if black doesn't play H3, white can actually jump into H3, force black to respond and take the corner, and white consolidates parity that way. So that is probably one thing to think about as well. So we don't want H3, we want to consider H8, and we want to consider A1. So say we play A1 and white goes H3, we're forced to take H8 and white gets a move over here. So black, white, perhaps, and essentially it's your turn to play again, and black would then only be left with one option over here, but to play A7, and then white jumps into B1. Black has no choice but to take G2. White has kind of the last say to sweep up the disc. So let's do a quick count on that potential line. So that is a forced line, so we want to count that first. So we have 24 black discs on the board, just using the count over here as an advantage. Okay, so we have 24 black discs, we plus 4, that is 28 black discs, and then basically white jumps into H3 potentially. So that's 27 left for black, 27 plus 6, 33, plus 2, 35, minus 1 once white plays this, so that gives us 34 black discs. So black, white, and then 34 black discs, and then followed by one more here for black, 1, 2, 3, 4, so that's 38 in total for black. White takes B1 minus 2, so we're left with 38. Yep, and then with minus 2, we're left with 36. So 36, given that this is an entire diagonal, black takes this, 1, 2, 3, 4. Together with this that you place, that's 41. So after 41, essentially white would sweep up the remaining discs, so that would mean minus 5 over here on this front and minus 6 on this front. So 41 minus 11 basically just gives us 30, so that is basically a losing line. So after we eliminate A1 based on that forced line, we can more or less be sure that maybe we're just going to start with H8 potentially. So let's just quickly validate this line, perhaps. So over here, if black plays h8, what happens then? So we have 24 plus 3, 27 discs. Chances are white probably wouldn't take this and give you this side. Instead, white would take up the h3 disc wedge and go for the corner. So you have 24 plus 3, 27, minus 1, 26. You plus 2 back, you get 28. And of course, once white has that momentary diagonal control, there is potentially a swindle where white can take up both squares. So black, white, and then followed by black may not be the best move possible, perhaps, because black, white takes this as a swindle, and black doesn't really have much of an opportunity to actually grab b1, given that this entire diagonal is actually controlled by white. So that might be a danger, actually. Black, white, black, followed by white. Black is kind of stuck. Even if we take the corner, white will be able to jump in. Black jumps in, perhaps. There still wouldn't be excess over here. So even if black takes the corner, white will simply grab h1 consecutively, and we still wouldn't have access down the line to b1. So that might be an issue. Okay, so basically it seems like this move is still our best bet on h8, but there might be a special maneuver that is required just to avoid the swindle to g2. So if, let's say, we were to start off with h8 and go with that wedge, if we were to take g8 and protect that sequence over there, it might be a bit problematic in a sense that in our previously discussed line, if white were to take g2 and grab the swindle on both moves consecutively, given that white has this momentarily diagonal control, it is important for us to actually block it. So usually we probably wouldn't want to play g2, which is an x square, but given this point, you don't want to lose moves, and at the same time you want to establish a move to be able to access b1 potentially in the future. g2 might actually be your best bet to kind of snatch the move ahead, and at the same time white doesn't have a momentary access to g8, so this g8 is not actually as urgent as to block g2. So let's go ahead to play g2. And essentially white would then grab the corner, and white loses the g2 move. And after white grabs the corner, he re-establishes g2 to chase down g8, and then you can probably go for a just-in-time defense. And you would realize that because of that maneuver, you basically cut off the move for white to make 2 consecutive moves, and as a result, you basically retain 2 consecutive moves for yourself, just access to the corner, and at the same time be able to land the last move on a7 for the win. So that's 33 to 31. So yeah, basically that's the endgame puzzle that we have for today, and thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you at the next episode. Goodbye.